Effective Governance, Peace and Justice. Thank you so much for coming.
My name is Victoria Modom Taban. I am a legal associate at Friends for Peace and your presenter for the day. And I am excited to have you here, especially because you're the technical committee. So I want to make this session as interactive as possible so that I'm not lecturing you. Also, it's in the afternoon, and if I lecture you, you might just all sleep.
So today, as she has already put it, we appreciate that the discussion is very interactive, so that we're able also to ask a lot of questions and be able to correct some few things. She's an expert in terms of the law, and I believe also we have a lot of experts among you in terms of the law and strictly on issues related to transitional justice, in bracket, Compensation and Reparation Authority. So our discussion will be very brief today, for about 1 hour, 1 hour and a half or 2 hours, and then we shall transit it for tomorrow. So I want to say thank you very much, Victoria, and I'm giving you the floor to be able to start with our discussion. Thank you.
Thank you and welcome once again. I will start by seeing what did they say reparations was to them or for them. Anyone can just contribute to this.
Well, I mean, initially the members of our community do not have the idea the CRA is established, because almost everybody in South Sudan is a victim. And once, you have many people who are victims, of course, but even our traditional justice system also provides for compensation or reparation in a certain way, depending on whichever community that you come from. So it is a welcome idea, only that they need the institution to be established. And they are even asking because the agreement says this institution should have been established 6 months after the commencement of the transitional period. But the institution up to now has not yet been established. So the question is, why is CRA not established up to now when the agreement is very clear? So the question goes back now to the politician to answer.
Yes, thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah. And when you're talking with the truth, you have to know also there is something called compensation there. And you have to know there is something called rehabilitation there. And then you are just explained. And when they know this thing, they ask, why we are not being aware before like this? It's supposed to be consultation first to know what the agreement said and what is the truth and healing and what is the CRA and what is rehabilitation. But according to traditionally, when we are talking with them, we get ourselves, we are into the law. We don't know how we are going to law. We get the law, according to them, there are other people, there is what we are called the customer law. Those who are elders. And elders, they are talking directly, we have one side of the compensation. And the compensation, according to our traditional, is a different in South Sudan. When they say about different, they talk other people talking when somebody died, what you're supposed to do. And or there's something damaged, what's supposed to do. Others people talking about the cow. If you damage something damaging, maybe as we said, when you are making ground or anything, sometimes you will pay 5 cow or 6 or 10. If somebody died, they're talking about the 35 and 51. These issues of the compensation, according to traditionally. So they're asking when the truth and healing reconciliation will be made, because they're buried between the truth and healing and the compensation authority. You cannot talk about the truth without the CRA, as you know. So this all there was been a lot of the question. So what time from where will we start? Will it start from beginning? 90s, 80s, 70s, or will we start from where? That was a question. And we said, according to peace agreement, talking about 2.5. And other people, what about now those crises going to continue? Where will we put them? That's another question. So this thing we need to be together in them. We were talking with them. CRH is not a process can be finished now, because whatever the problem, then this problem will be put in again. Whatever the problem back also must be known what happened back as a history. And then that way was been working with them through consultation And a lot of questions. This is around the 24 age. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Anyone else?
We have found a lot. Actually, the public were not aware what we support CTRA. They don't have information on site. But what they know is the fight, when the fight they end like that without compensation from the government. But they were very wanted and shocked by hearing and excited by hearing that the government want to compensate or want to allow those who are victims to pursue their cases through whom to know the committed atrocities to them. We were very happy and appreciated and welcomed it. But they said, how are we going to contact this compensate CTRA, because in our areas here we know how to deal with these cases, but in the government we don't know. And even who will provide transport if the cases are going to be based in Juba and there are no branches in the state, who is going to be responsible for the cases? They ask all these questions, but we respond to them. And even we have actually learned them that this process will be open and it is provided in the chapter, in the peace agreement, which is chapter 5. It is the only chapter grant you, the public and the people of South Sudan actually, to pursue and follow up whatever you have committed against you. Also, okay, the talk of separation of the cases. They say now there are some beyond cases here. Raping actually is actually saying us. Seeing we used to fight the people of South Sudan here from tribe to tribe. We never have such experience where you can touch out, you can commit adultery to somebody or rape. These things were not there. Have you provided in the CTRA? You say yes, these are all cases that are contained in these processes. Even your house is broke down and you know who broke it. You have right to follow up and open the case. But some of the people actually they were eager if compensation will be in general community. When something happened in one of the Payam, they should be provided schools or health center and so on. These were some other idea ranking in other people's minds when they were actually communicating to us. On other hand, there were doubts. There were doubts that you see those who commit all these things are in the higher level. Even you, the committee who have come now, we are doubt of you. You may just throw our thing away or burn it down and then you go to Juba with saying that everything is okay in the ground, they don't have problem and so on. So now, as the public, we are doubt of higher offices. If the higher offices are still there, who will conduct our cases and who will promote it, our concerns? These are a lot of things actually, the narrative to us, of which some of the things they are in focus group discussions, and some of the things are in key formal interview, of which now we cannot remember all, but these are the contexts, at least we captured from them, and they are waiting up now. Even now they are calling us that we sit in Juba and do one thing we accused you last time. We do come and collect information and we go and sleep on them. We say now our problem is not as at the higher level. Politicians are the one to decide. The commission itself is not been established, and even the members are not even been named, and the office even is not been formed. And where are you blaming us here? We've done our part, and we have already submitted our paper. We only remain diaspora, which is the refugees consultation. But in the point, at the grassroots, we already done. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the. He said that the agreement talks about 2005, right, to the end of the transitional period, no? But the funny thing is, when it comes to the CRA, we're on the same page, compensation reparations of the part, they're silent on timeline. And that actually creates a lot of confusion, because then the question is, are we going with what they said for the Truth Commission, or are they going to set up new timelines? It's actually a very interesting part, because people have the same questions. because for reparations to be awarded or implemented, the law will prescribe. We will only award reparations for violations committed from this date to this date. Even are you reparations? And so we would like to see how a link would be established between the Commission and the Reparations Authority and the referral pathway. Okay, so we are all familiar with Chapter 5, Transitional Justice Processes, and the mechanisms that it establishes. The Commission for Truth, Reconciliation and Healing, that you great people were the technical committee. Then there's the Compensation and Reparation Authority, and then there's the Hybrid Code for South Sudan. But our focus today actually is the Compensation and Reparations Authority, where we will delve into explaining what reparations are. So as a state, a state has the legal obligation to ensure that people or citizens within the confines of its country have certain rights, and such rights are not violated. And the event that such rights are violated, then those people are entitled to reparations. And what is reparations? Or rather, what are reparations? Reparations is redress for a wrongdoing by a state to a people that it owed a duty to protect. So reparations may be material or symbolic. When you talked about the community saying they want schools and stuff like that, that's actually a type of reparation which I will discuss shortly. So reparations are acknowledged worldwide, and the basis for reparations is the UN Guiding Principles that states that a country has an obligation to protect its citizenry, and where it fails, it should provide reparations that is proportional to the harm that is occasioned to the person. Accessible damage. So it will be calculated and there will be a percentage. Conflict does not recur again. Any questions so far? So when we look into the agreement, the type of reparations that the agreement provides for is actually administrative reparations, where people are not going to have that was occasioned to them. And these reparations seek to change structural inequalities. Like, for example, we talk about restitution in this case, not specifically this case only, but this is an example. We talk about coming up with laws that prevent further discrimination, or that prevent creation of an environment where women are subjected to certain harms, like they are awarded to victims or survivors who have immediate needs and cannot wait for the whole CTRH process or the reparations process to come to an end. Such victims, you may find again, will be like survivors who need access to medical care, cycle schools, a community. If a community was harmed together, collective who apply for it. And then there's symbolic reparations. Symbolic reparations could be a statue, it could also be like a well, something just to show that this happened, but then we have accepted it and we don't want to go back there again. It's just like the museum in Rwanda after the genocide. That part already, I feel we have failed in it, but all hope is not lost. I think we are still trying, and that really matters. And equal and effective access to justice is important, so that people whose rights were violated are able to access reparations. And as proponents and advocates of CRSV to mean conflict-related sexual violence, as advocates for survivors of CRSV, we advocate for a survivor-centered approach when it comes to reparations. And that is equal to a victim-centered approach, which means when these reparations are being developed and designed, the victim or the survivor is put in place in the middle, at the center of the discussion. The reparations are not imposed. What are reparations to you might not be reparations to them. Going back to your example, when it comes to collective reparations, that community might not have wanted a school. Maybe they wanted a well. So if you build a school, they're not going to send their children there. So then that is not victim-centered. It is not victim-centered. It is not survivors provided for property destruction, which for us is problematic, because not only did people lose property, get their property distracted, there are people who lost body parts, there are people who lost their dignity, like survivors of CRSV. There are people who are displaced, forcibly displaced from their lands, and all of them are victims and survivors, and they are entitled to reparations. And coming back to my point, what is the role of the CTRH in relation to the CRA? Let me throw it back to you. What is the role? Because the three mechanisms, yes, they are set up to you people, because it's also like a learning experience for me, and we can come up with concrete solutions. What do you think is the role of the CTRH in relation to the Reparations Authority? Because the agreement gives the Commission the powers to recommend reparations, but at the end of the day, the award comes from the Compensation and Reparations Authority.
Yeah, for me, I think the truth and reconciliation, as I talked before, truth is the main process. The one who make process all for everything. Collect a paper, make a data. Why we put the truth to be a measure? Because maybe I should come and say, yeah, may I have 10 children that die. I need to be compensated. And all my family is finished. I need to be compensated. So that time, that to get the truth for that from you, these things they are true or not, I will write. You will come to CRA, to CTRH, they will make investigation with you. How can we know this is the right? You have a 10-person die. Where? Who is the witness? And which place you was there? Who killed your children? Where? This is all the question that will be there as an investigation. And then when they get their fine, it's true, yes, what he says is true, then okay, they can think for you. What you want to be transferred to truth and to reputation, or you want to be put in the sentence of the witness or sentence of the victims, which place that they will take it. So if you want to be the repair also, what kind of the repair you want to see is if you have a 10-person die and you remain alone, individual compensation. There is a big individual. You want to compensate alone. It is you to decide. Yeah, the citizen will decide. Yes, Mr. S, Mr. A, they have a thing that destroy. They have a company, and company destroy completely. They have a papers. These are all the things that they don't need to be near. And then it is you to defend this thing. You and your witness. As like you go, somebody go to court only, and the court says you open a case for yourself. And then you open a case for yourself. I have 1, 2, 3 the loss. And then you bring a witness, and witness saying, okay, yes, Mr. X was here, it's true. Then they support you. As that meaning of the truth. Truth to take a right from somebody, and also to put your right aside because you cannot be harmed. That is the truth.
I think
The agreement is very clear on the mandate of the two institutions. When you look at the role of the CTRH, it begins with investigations. And after that, what remains to be a challenge is the quantification of the compensation itself. That is left now for CRA to determine. If I have lost my eye, how much should I be compensated? If I have lost my leg, how much is supposed to be awarded to me? as a compensation, as a victim now. So in this way, I think what is important is for the CTRH first to conduct investigations, identify the victims, and later on refer them to the CTRH. Again, you have the hybrid court in the middle. In other jurisdictions, there are prosecutions and compensation. In others, there are only prosecutions, no compensation. In our situation, we have the three institutions. We have the CTRH, we have the hybrid court, and we have the administrative and environmental authority. Which means the CTRH will also be able to identify the perpetrators of the crimes which have been committed during the conflict. And those are the crimes that we refer to as crimes against humanity, war crimes, and genocide. And then, sexual, abuses that have equally been committed during the conflict. If the idea is that I have been identified as one of the perpetrators that was involved in the murder of a number of people in any particular area. And then people feel like I should be taken to court. Right? This is going to be different now from us going directly to the CRA for compensation before we hear the outcome of the ruling of the hybrid court. See, these are the technicalities that are involved in the process here. For us, we are divided as a community or as a country. There are those who wish that those who have been involved in committing these serious crimes must be prosecuted. And there are those who are saying, hey, look, for us to continue as a country, we must forgive one another, and then we must, see who are the victims, and then they should be compensated. For us, to stay in peace, to coexist as a country. These, you could see there are contending issues in the process. It is the country now to decide which way to go. Are we going for prosecution completely? Are we going for peace by choosing reconciliation and healing, and later on compensation for the victim identified? Or which way for the country? That is left for the country.
What a colleague just stated, I think the CTRH has a very, very crucial role to play when it comes to CRA. And these are the key people. I can say that they are the eyes of the victims, and they represent, I can say they represent a nation. And their work is not to segregate, not to say this is from this tribe, this is from another tribe, but to equally investigate who suffered, to allocate the victims, and find the best way of, compensating those victims if necessary. And they can also play a role of, record or recording what might have happened earlier on. Maybe I'll talk of 2013, 2016, or even till now, because we have some ongoing intercommunal dispute among some of the South Sudanese. And women and children are suffering. And we continuously, every day, we do have women who are really going through sexual abuse. And this requires really a concrete, and for me, I will feel that if the process will continue and will flow well, this team of the CTRH should be a very, very inclusive and, I mean, inclusive people, not people that will segregate. In the context, the African context, always, people tend to run for this is my cousin, this is my, the corruption and idiocy. And that is one of our worry, that this might apply so much during the compensations and reparation. So basically, this is what I can add. And another thing is that these people are crucial, and for the context of South Sudan, they have always to be reviewed. They have to be allocated rightly, because they are the key, they are the eye when it comes to CRA. Yeah.
The CTRA has the powers to withdraw the immunity from the senior person who actually commit atrocities to come to the court when it is detected by the CTRA. The CTRA has a lot of powers to withdraw the immunity from the individuals, whether a general or a minister or a governor, to appear and answer in the court of law. And actually, some witnesses container, which actually around 50 people were being arrested, and later on actually they collapsed together with container. All those 50 they died. We actually witnessed that container. We have been took by some of the inspectors. They show us this is a container. Actually, the container is now in the church. I think if there are such a case that have come up from the CRA, and maybe there are family members who will be claiming that our community, one of our sons or our daughter was in this container and actually died. I think it will be fair to the CTRA, and the CTRA will call it staff that have you witnessed this last time or have you seen? We will say yes. Or we can actually push the CTRA to be in position. I think these are some of the few actually we see CTRA has a lot of roles and duties. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So depending on how the law is going to be formulated and give it that power, in other jurisdictions, the CTRH has the power to award amnesties. And usually, the trickiest part about amnesties is that it waives conviction or jail time for the person. And usually the question is, when a person is granted amnesty, is the victim then entitled to reparations? That's one of the most interesting parts about amnesty and the CTRH. And also in other jurisdictions, we've seen that these two bodies work hand in hand. The CTRH does its job, and then the files are transferred to the CRA, who use it as a form of evidence to award reparations. Now, for the eligibility for persons to apply to the Reparations Authority for reparations, the persons who can do that are individual victims who participate in the CTRH process, individual victims like any other person out there. And interesting enough, even companies have now been given the power to actually apply for reparations as well. And when we talk about victims, we talk about direct and indirect victims. In the context of survivors of conflict-related sexual violence, we are actually advocating that children born out of rape are also recognized as victims in their own rights, not indirect, direct victims, because their birth came as a result of a certain harm. And to that extent, we are hoping that the Reparations Authority will be able to recognize them and ensure that they can actually apply for reparations in their own right as victims. And then there was the question also about who will run the compensation and reparations fund. But interestingly enough, let me start with And like the countrywide public consultation we've had for the CTRH, we haven't seen one for the CRA, right? So how detrimental do you think that would be to the process of reparations, since you've been able to go out there, interact with the people, and they've told you? How is this going to impact citizen-owned reparations kind of process? Because public consultations have not been conducted for the CRA.
The CRA is come automatically. When you talk about the truth, then after truth what? Truth, the one who will show you what is going to be. Truth like something, like a process you're going the way. When you go in the way, you'll get another thing there in your leg, and you are still continuing going up. So when you talk about the truth and healing reconciliation, this is the three pillars, right? And those three pillars also they will cause another three pillars as a CRA and what this is what they will come again. And those three pillars also will bring another three pillars of the hybrid court. Because when you talk with the CRA, you meaning three things. You not take CRA alone. You will talk with CRA, and we will talk with about the code that can use in the CRA. What kind of code you want to use it? Traditional code, classic code, hybrid code. These things that to define your right. This one. And then you talk about the truth here. Truth also will jump directly where will jump across directly is going to amnesty. Talk about amnesty and talk about the compensation and recompensation. Because everything you're just going like this, you get another branch there. You go like this, you get another branch. Those three you cannot separate them. And those three pillars, they will create another pillars again. That is you talk. That's why we are just people can go just to talk with the truth. You jump to representation, and then there will be people talking about what kind of the composition. How will people need to know? And you just can't talk about the truth. And then there will come another directly here. Okay, what if there are representation? How can we do it? Okay, if we want to compensate, you have to be compensated by three ways. You need to be publicly, or you need to be compensated individually, or you need to be compensated as a road or a school and everything like this. Or just we say the gathering amount of people in certain place, or museum, as you said before. So this thing is not separating. When you talk about people now here in South Sudan, they are looking for the compensation is very important, mean more than the truth and healing reconciliation. They said to tell the truth, if we need to truth, really truth in South Sudan here, we don't need anything more, just only to make for us road. We just to make for us a school, hospital. They are talking about public compensation. They are not talking about individual. But individuals, sometimes you will find them to come in. If they for all like this, how many people die in South Sudan? If like this, we need, maybe I have a 5 family and we are not have a work. Remain only as a mom or a dad or anybody. How can you survive again? And we have a job is done or home is very destroyed. How so? That is from individual coming in that side. You see? So about the conversation in South Sudan is you have been welcoming. You welcome it at three ways as you talk about it. One way public. Public they need school, two-way school, and they need a road, and they need what and this thing. They are talking about this and hospital. Secondly, they are talking about what? Peace is going to die on, no war will come again. This is question. Let's come out from them. There is a war will come again? We say no, you cannot be where we are human being. Always there is maybe will be certain things. But you cannot say they will start again. You see, this is a question. So about as you talk about the rotation is a three pillar, as you said, and it still continue. And this three pillar can bring another three pillar as a code, traditional code, what these things will come out about these things. So I think you know better than us. We cannot talk about this so much. You have something to take. Thank you.
Yeah, Council, I went out for, I did not get this. I just got the last part of this.
Alright, so I said, so the agreement says that public consultations, when chapter 5, at the beginning of chapter 5, it says public consultation should be made for the establishment of the key mechanisms. And so we had it for the commission, right? But we do not have it for the CRA. And so my question is, do you think not having one is going to affect the whole process? Like they're totally going to miss the point because they have not included the voices of the masses on what they think reparations is.
I think we can refresh our minds on during our activity to conduct public consultation on the CTR establishment, on the hybrid code, on the CRA. It's going to be very costly. And frankly speaking, the government had no money. Even up to now, the government never paid anything to the committee. We were just depending on support from partners and well-wishers. That was a challenge. But our own understanding was that these three mechanisms, we should reach out to the people, conduct public consultation on how the CTRA should be established, what are the roles of the CTRA, these other than South Sudan, and these other things. Then we sensitize the public. Again, after this, we should also come back to the CRA. Now, after the investigation has been done by the CTRA, maybe the other cases have been referred to the hybrid court. What next? Comes in the issue of compensation and reparation. We should also equally conduct public consultation on the matter. Now, the question of money was a stumbling block. And that's why one and only one public consultation was done for the three mechanisms at a go. We were supposed to go to the diaspora. For the last 4 or 6 months now, my colleague can also correct me, we have been waiting for the teams to go to Sudan, Ethiopia, to Kenya, to Uganda, where we have a good number of people who are refugees in those countries, to share some thoughts with them on the three mechanisms. Up to today, we have not had anything. So it's a challenge. And roles of the three institutions, who should be a member of the three institutions, how long should you serve in those ones, what can you do, what you should not do as a member of the institution. These things are the things that were supposed to be shared with the public.
Yes. Yeah, actually the topic is consultation in our community. Now the people now are gathering in city. People are not in village. The village now, the crime, people are making because the law of the government are not in place. Because everybody now they have the community they have power. They have gun. Even the police has no power. Even the sheep now, the people who are suffering in the area, because there's no power. What I know how to succeed the mission or the task, we need how the government can tie the law to be strong in the county, in the Payang, in the Puma. After that, when they sit down with the community, the people will come up with the tools. People can just, if we make the thing mission, we can be successful. But without that, the government cannot empower the law. The thing will not be materialized. Because we need police to empower the law with the community, with the sheep. After that, our mission can be successful. Because we have traditional now, they compensate somebody with sick cow. Even in Equatoria, they have different. We need also, the government can apply. Because when in time of Sudan, Sabainat, if you kill, you must be arrested, not to be compensated by cow. That thing, that make people now, out of today, when I kill somebody, even tomorrow, the other person will go and kill somebody because they know my community will compensate this guy. That thing, when the government will say no, If you kill, you must be killed. If you must be arrested according to law. Government. What I know, the government can empower the police. If they empower police, when we go to the community, we can achieve whatever we want. The law, we can got the place. Yeah. We can compensate by the government. It should be good to avoid the traditional community. Because some of the people, they don't know how cow. Just they have goat and chicken. That thing, we need to apply the government law. Yeah, this is my small contribution.
Yes, thank you for that contribution, and thank you, Ian, for bringing in the cultural aspect. It's not rubber stamped as a thing, just like you said. You'll go out, kill someone because you know your community is going to pay, which is wrong. When you do that, you create an environment where crime is permissible. And so that is definitely something that should be looked into. And my learned friend over here said, or rather addressed, the aspect of public consultation at the refugee camps. So people have been talking about it, international organizations have talked about it, and the Ministry of Justice, I mean, you probably know more about this than me, said they cannot table the CRA bill in Parliament because they lack that component. And that is why I was bringing in the aspect of public consultation for the Reparations Authority, because for people like refugees, reparations to them will be very different from a person who's seeking reparations in Juba. For a refugee in Kakuma or in Sudan, Ethiopia or Uganda, reparations for them might be repatriation back home. They want land, they want identity, because at this point, by the time you're being called a refugee, you're basically stateless. The moment you decide to take up your identity again, you lose your identity as a refugee. And that's why I was really wondering, to what extent does this affect how effective the reparations law is going to be? I throw it out that way. For want of time, I'm going to list out various things, the timelines, the principles, the rights of victims and survivors. It will establish bodies. And in South Africa, the Reparations Committee was established to verify your claims. So reparations is a process. You all just don't walk into an office and say, I want this money. You walk in with your claim, with your primary document. In jurisdictions like in Colombia and Peru, they shift the burden to the government, so that the government had also done its research. It researched that during the periods where we said we will award reparations, this is what happened. There was massive CRSV in these areas. So you bring your claim, because in such situations, for such survivors or victims, there are rarely no witnesses. There are no witnesses. So parameters will be put in place to ensure that your claim is valid. And that is why I was saying, for your claim to be valid or to have a sane process, we thank you for honoring our invite, and I hope this session has been educative and informative, and please spread the news out there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for today. Thank you very much. I don't know whether Dabek is having some announcement, but because we know we have a follow-up meeting with the larger group tomorrow. 8:30 or 9 starts.